asking about Widow Mines, and they're like, Widow Mines are too hard, I can't stop them. So I actually don't want you to spread your shit out this time.
Okay.
First things first, little known tip, Widow Mines are not actually units. Check this out, guys. So don't do anything. We're gonna A move. Oh look, they're not fighting units. They can't shoot us till they're burrowed. So my lings are just like, no, we're not gonna attack them. If I A move them, they're like, no, we've got to go around. So now burrow them. So they ignore them. Now if I give myself an overseer so I can see them. Let's do that again. And what you're going to notice here is it's not until they're actually, so wait, no, unburrow. So a lot of people often ambush people's armies. And you can burrow them now. And if they could blow up those Widow Mines, it would be amazing, but it's not until they finish burrowing, you could see the Zerglings started attacking them. A couple of these Widow Mines got hit a few times. Too late though, they're already firing. So, unlike when you catch a siege tank player on siege and you A-move and you just fuck their army up, when you catch a Widow Mine army unsieged, you need to actually do something a little bit extra, and that is blow the fuck out of those Widow Mines manually. Now, obviously, this is a very silly scenario, having like 20 Widow Mines and 3 Marauders, but we're just doing this to give you the example. Often there'll be 5, 6, 7, 8 Widow Mines mixed in with Bio. First thing that's going to happen is the Bio is going to run away, and you would love your Ling Bane to try and kill the Widow Mines, but they will automatically run past if you A-move. So let's do it. So just burrow when I get in melee with you, okay?
Okay.
Alright, so I'm going to A-move, and we need to manually be like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And notice how what I was doing there is I was boxing those banelings and blowing them up as they got on top of it. Now, if I've got baneling speed, so my things aren't so fucking far behind, let's do that again. It won't be quite as hard. So once again, as I get kind of close to melee there, or just as my first lings start touching your Widow Mines, burrow. Okay?
Alright.
So guys, what we're going to do is we're going to box. It takes 3 banelings to kill a Widow Mine. Now, it's pretty fucking hard to box just 3 banelings. So if you box 5 or 6, well, we don't want to use 5 or 6 banelings to kill Widow Mine because that's inefficient. Who gives a fuck? You're killing a clump of Widow Mines. If those Widow Mines burrow and get their shots off, it's going to ruin a lot more than a few extra banelings. It's totally fine to accidentally blow up extra banelings to kill Widow Mines. So let's do this one more time. I'll show you what I'm talking about. You guys have got to get this down. You got to be like, all right, oh shit, box, detonate. I manually detonated those. All right. Now let's do this one more time, but we're going to show this with a very different Zerg army. We're going to have Roach Hydra. So we'll give Roach and Hydra basic upgrades. Okay. So now with Roach Hydra, obviously there's no manual detonation, but let's do the same thing. So once I start kind of fighting you, you can burrow. But you'll notice how they're going for the Marauders, and they moved forward to get to the Marauders. People always ask me, how do you beat mech? I say Roach Hydra. They say, yeah, he went mass Widow Mines, and my whole fucking army turned into a bloody mist! It's bullshit! And I'm like, okay, you're doing something wrong there, because you're not using your units correctly. But this is very common. I've seen this happen a lot of times. So, once again, what I'm going to do is hold position this time, guys, and that's going to stop when those stop my Roaches and Hydras from running forward to get at the Marauders. Actually, no, I'm not. We're going to make it even worse this time. Let's make another bloody mist. All right, Demand, you ready for some fancy micro? All you need to do when the fight starts, start burrowing the Widow Mines and run your Marauders away.
Back.
Yeah, pull the Marauders back first, even, or basically just do it at the same time. So have them on separate control groups. All right, you ready?
Yep.
All right. So notice they're like, oi, let's get those Marauders. Zerg units did not graduate from Florencio Science School, alright guys? They're not the smartest. Alright, if you've ever seen a Thor with his javelin missile launchers in a Zerg base, wasting like a minute trying to kill a single overlord, you think Thors are dumb? Wait till you see Roach Hydras fighting against Widow Mine. If you don't micro them, they're gonna go to Dicktown. Okay, so we can try this again. I feel personally attacked by this demo. You should, Summerlux. You probably died to this before, haven't you? So let's do this again. This time I'm going to use hold position. So let's go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go hold position, and then I'm going to spread me shit out a little bit. This is still not very advanced micro, but we actually killed, obviously this is an insane number of Widow Mines. We actually killed a bunch of Widow Mines before they burrowed. So what does hold position do, guys? Hold position causes your units to just kill whatever's in fucking range of them. I use this all the time in mineral lines to make sure my guys kill workers rather than chasing after a random queen. Chasing after a random... And it's not just for Zerglings. People know about Zergling hold position. People don't know you do this with Zealots. You do this with Adepts. You do this with Marines, Roaches. Any unit hold position is going to be like, just fucking don't go running around chasing shit, you dummy. That's kind of the whole point. So hold position's really nice. You can also use shift click. Sorry, I should have an overseer if I want to do that. You can also use shift click here. If there's only a few Widow Mines, hurry up, overseer. Alright. So go burrow. And you can kind of go, oh, at least this way they'll kill a few of those Widow Mines. But they still kind of get blasted. Now the Hydras can actually kill them from out of range, if you micro it correctly. But hold position's really cool, because often what happens, right, if you're playing against mass Widow Mine mech, pretty rare scenario, but you will get some weirdos who love that shit. They will just try and run underneath you, okay? They're like, I'm gonna just fucking run on you and burrow. So let's show how I can use hold position and micro against that. So come at me and just keep trying to burrow on me. So like try to run past me and burrow on me basically. And then we can kind of pull back. And if there's Hellions in here, Hellbats, tanks, I'm using hold position as if the Marauders or the other units were here to make sure my units just kill whatever's in front of them. Because otherwise the Widow Mines will often be kind of in front of everything, and you can do that. So you can do this kind of, you know, just pull back, hold position. But this is actually especially important when we use this fucker. So, because this unit has a lot more range, okay? Actually, I'll get rid of the other. Okay. So, whenever you're fighting with Brood Lords, I mean, we can also talk about Brood Lord Micro a little here, I guess, why not? So we're doing Zerg examples, we'll do Protoss in a second. Terran don't usually have to do with Widow Mines. But basically, so if you bring, oh, actually, I'll give you more Marauders, sorry. Actually, will they shoot Marauders over Widow Mines? Let's find out. So just run at me. So just move your army past me. Okay, they will target the Widow Mines because Marauders don't shoot up, I think. Okay, we need to give you Marines. I was like, I know they shoot the bio. Okay. So what can sometimes happen is, yeah, just come at me. Is basically the Brood Lords will not shoot the Widow Mines. So put the Widow Mines in front. So just what you want to do is you want to like A move, and you'll notice how the Marines are automatically going to stop. No, you're not A moving. No, you need to go back. Yeah, go back and restart.
My bad.
So what'll happen is they're often trying to fight their way through Broodlings, everything else, and what'll happen is like the Banelings or the Hydras on the ground are A moving. They're ignoring the Widow Mines, and the Broodlings are as well. So yeah.
I'll get these in front.
And so notice as I'm A moving, they keep shooting the Marines. And this is where you really need to be target firing those Widow Mines, because they could have burrowed on me by now. Yeah, you're allowed to burrow them.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So basically your Brood Lords will never choose to shoot those, whether you hold position or A move, because they've got such long range. So if you ever end up in this scenario, it's really important to have Speed Banes on the ground in reserve, so when those Widow Mines run forward, you can clump under them. You can just go blow them up. Or you use some hold position Roach Hydra underneath, right? So I'll use some Hydras this time for it. basically those Hydras were actually killing the Widow Mines. So notice I've helped position them again, and they were killing the Widow Mines because of that. Another thing is you can actually manually target fire them. So one more time, just to show this last little detail. And if you manually target fire them, that can be nice as well. But you'll notice the broodlings just kept running off to chase after the bio. If the bio is close enough, they're like, oh no, go kill the bio. Widow Mines aren't a threat. And you're like, you fucking idiots. And there's no way to actively micro the changelings, the broodlings, sorry, to actually do that effectively. But anyways, GG's, awesome. So, Widow Mines attack priority is very important. It's the same thing if you charge onto it with a ton of zealots. Exact same thing. If you think about this, guys, just think about this. Ton of Widow Mines there. You know, some Marauders behind it. You're charging onto that with charge lots. Oh, you're gonna have such a fucking bad time, dude. So check this, check this. So, okay, this is just silly, the amount of units I gave you. Alright. So just kind of A-move at me, and then you're going to burrow the mines and run the Marauders back. And once again, it's just that same thing. Just be wary, your units aren't going to kill the Widow Mines no matter how exposed they are. And then, you know, your Zealots will clump up and take these horrendous hits where Widow Mines are a little bit slow to... So. That's alright, they're a little bit slow to burrow there. But yeah, so it's something to kind of focus on there. So do that again. I guess what I would try to do here, if I'm quick enough with my micro, is I would be like, oh, you know, and I would try to actually shift click on those if I had observers and stuff. And I'll often, if I've got stalkers, sentries, and models, I'll actually shift click them or hold position them to focus down those Widow Mines. And if you can actually get them, especially if there's only 1 or 2 Widow Mines, if I can kill them when I catch their army on siege, it's huge. You'll see pros do this all the time with Blink Stalkers. There's like a random Widow Mine just in front of the army. They kill it, blink away, and they're like, ha ha ha. Every little Widow Mine you can kill ahead of a fight. It's really nice because that splash damage can be so devastating. So this is generally the most important thing about Widow Mines. This time, just set up a nice little pre-spread, will you? Whether you're using charge lots or, I mean, really any units, it's about spreading out when you're engaging into them, right? Just to minimize splash. But especially melee units, Zerglings and Zealots, the ones that are the most affected, right? Widow Mines are the bane of Ling Bane. They're the bane of the banes. They are the banes of the banes. And, yeah, and Zealots as well. So just spread your shit out and pre-burrow. Just gonna catch up on chat. So, yeah, thanks for hanging out, guys. You roll over to charge on a Mortal Archon time. You might as well be a dog, and the opponent give me bacon, says Gravelord Nito. What's up, Nito? You're Zerg player? If you're Terran, get more mines. If you're Zerg, yeah, definitely think about it a little bit. So you're in a weird concave. That's not normally how you'd want to set it. Like, just have a bit more of a generic spread. Just like a bit of a blob spread. Your Widow Mines as well. Yeah. You can spread them a little more than that if you want individually, but... yeah. And spread it back a little bit rather than in a battle line. Normally you'll be spread backwards, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. So anyway, we are the blades of fire. Whenever you're burrowing, whenever you're A-moving into this, all you want to do is A-move. If you pre-spread, it's great. If not, you want to just try to move those Zealots kind of apart and through them. With Zealots, it's weird with charge. So just kind of do a rough spread. Just box. You should be able to just roughly box everything and just move your shit and then do it. Yeah, that's fine. You have a tendency to go into more of a weird battle line, but that's cool. If you can spread pre-fight a little bit, that's really big. That can make a nice difference. Zealots are a lot buffer than Ling Bane. So there's also a little bit more to be said for doing this. So just burrow where you are. It's fine. There's a bit more to be said for this micro, where you're like, oh shit, there's a lot of Widow Mines. Sometimes that's actually okay. Normally I hate that micro, because you can really fuck yourself and pull the Widow Mines into the clump of your army. But sometimes it's okay to pull everything back except the front few guys. Normally what you want to do is the more standard Alright. So yeah, once again, just spread real basic. What you're gonna be doing, and I'm gonna show you guys without the fight happening, without all the distracting explosions. This, you like to bait Widowmine friendly fire as a skill get on? This is something people get way too fancy with though. It's something which is a nice bonus, but you can't reliably do it unless your opponent really fucks up. Because they should have their bio units on top of the mines, gunning down your front running units. So it can't reliably, like a lot of people do this. They're like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's see if we can, oh, it didn't work. Let's see if we can do this. Can maybe, yeah, oh, it didn't work. People do that, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Stop it. Fucking waste of APM. Like, even if you set off one Widow Mine, you're way better off spending your 3,000 minerals in the bank at that moment. But, what we want to do is this. We want to peel the front-running units diagonally through their army. Why diagonally? Why not just straight? Because we want to pull it away from our clump. So rather than just pulling it forward, we're pulling it down, away, and deeper into their army. The rest of the units are still just A moved. Why? These guys are naturally going to be a bit more clumped. We don't want the Widow Mines tracking onto them. So the Widow Mines will track onto these units. They will drag the enemy fire through into the enemy ranks, and most importantly, away from our own Ling Bane. Now this is something which is based off mouse accuracy, as all micro is. When people say, I'm bad at micro, it just takes practice. And the thing is, even with very basic control, you will get gains. Even if you're just going, move, It's not really just the front running units, but you still at least spread your units through, and it works out very nicely. So here we go. I'm going to show you guys. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to save first. Ling Bane versus Mines. And let's do it. Check this out. So we're going to go, okay. Bam, bam. And then you can do extra spreading. I just did 2. I just did box, click, box, click. One Widow Mine didn't get fired off and ended up getting a really good hit. Obviously, we're not meant to win this fight, guys. This Terran army is worth, like, I don't know, 2,000 resources more than this tiny little squad of Zerg. We're just displaying the micro. We don't care about winning or losing. Yeah, just borrow. That's fine. It's not perfect, but... And this time, we spread out even more. And you can notice a lot of those Widow Mine shots were going off back here. So if your opponent's got a spread of units, you're pulling the shots away from your guys, you're getting friendly fire. It's beautiful. And that's all you want to do. So if I catch you guys on ladder, if I see a replay of yours and you're doing these ones, so just borrow your shit. Let's go, go, go. If I catch you doing, oh. Yeah, no, let's run away. This is fucking nasty, man. Don't do this. Don't do this. Some dumb shit, man. Don't be going in and out. Don't be trying to send some units in, pull the rest back. It just doesn't work consistently. Whereas, and it's hard to do reliably. Whereas this is like the same thing every time. You're like, A move, box click, box click. That's it. That's what it is. It's such a basic thing, and it's something which is always the same. It's always like relatively the same. You're like, A move, oh, move. You know, that's it. It's like, it's just so much more reliable. And you can get that down as a mechanical habit and it'll make a massive difference. In the case of Stalker Zealot, should we do the same thing or bait with Stalker Blink, says Clickety. Once again, blinking with Stalkers, way too complicated. Not something you should be doing outside of very specific scenarios. So you see a bunch of Widow Mines on their own, so just burrow as you are. Like, if you're doing... So just fight with the Marauders as well. Leave the Marauders on top.
Gotcha.
So if I'm doing these ones, this is, like, way too complicated. I'm like, oh, we have to do it. And then I'm, like, trying to blink away. I forgot to give myself blink. That would help. It's just, like, way too fancy. This is just, like, way overthinking it. Because you're like, oh, yeah, let's leave my Zealots back. I'll engage just with my Stalkers. And then I'll be like, oh, let's... Sorry, my keyboard's in the wrong spot. Oh, we'll do it like this. Yeah, come on. Oh, yeah, we'll do. Oh, okay, yep. Yeah. It's like, it's just way too fancy. Don't try to be too fancy. Like I said, 90% of the time, just spread your shit through their army. How can you also get way more value? I mean, let's say we got charge. We do have that. I mean, how can we do it better? Well, there's another really simple thing. We can go shift click. Shift click. Oh, look, we set up a flank. With a couple boxes and clicks, and now we can borrow those mines. And now we can A-move from both sides. And I'm not even going to do that micro. I don't know what's going on with my computer right now.
Our allies are being attacked.
My frame rate has just gone insane. For some reason, this game's bugging out real hard. I do not know what's going on. It's crazy. Might have to end this demonstration real soon. This map sometimes starts to lag after sometimes it's released. Yeah, apparently so. It's like super laggy. Maybe it's got all the other units like still loaded or something. It's like sitting there. There's also the thing where you split individual lings to eat tank shots, says Zilmerx. Yeah, exactly. Another thing you should almost never be doing. Like if you guys don't have like 200 APM, that's like such a waste of APM. Like there's good moves. Like, oh, there's this really scary push. I'm going to A-move my queens in first to take the first volley of tank shots, and my other units will come in just behind the queens. Like, that's cool. That's easy to pull off. Splitting individual lings to eat tank shots is like... This is the icing on top of the icing on top of the icing of the cake. Like, this is like third level icing. Like, let's be honest. I feel often like when I queue up a ladder game as someone who's GM with all races, my cake tastes like poo. I'm like, is there sewage in this cake? Why does it taste like poo? Like, there's so many things I need to improve with just the base, the sponge of my cake. My icing is so not that... I do a bit of icing because I like the fun stuff. But yeah, it's so big. It's so big. It makes such a big difference. So that's huge. So the bigger thing, as I said before, is often the pre-split. If you can just pre-split your units, it's a good point from Zilmerx. Is like, yeah, pre-splitting is big. As I was saying, if you can pre-split or pre-flank, your units kind of do the spreading for themselves. But even in those scenarios, if you can add a little bit of box clicking, some of those front-running units to pull the Widowmine shots away from the rest, the value's insane, dude. The value's insane. So yeah. I think this is everything about Widowmines. Have we missed anything, guys?
I don't think so.
Bullia says, how about sending small packs in waves versus the mines? Each wave makes the mines shoot, and then the following wave can do damage. Oh, okay, so good point. So if you're dealing with a parade push, right? So this is not really... This is more of a buying time tactic than anything, and like a slowing the Terran down. It comes down to APMs. This is a really cool thing. If you're playing against Biomine as Zerg, then that's cool. How about using Overseers to use friendly fire? Someone mentioned as well. Okay, cool. Okay. So I think this is really common, especially and more complicated with Zerg, because Zerg get ravaged by Widowmines even more than Protoss. Whereas Protoss, it's like your Zealot stage, doesn't do that well versus it. You've got to spread a bit, but Zerg Lingbane stage lasts a lot longer. So, definitely having speed Overseers can help. And they can run through... Is it cost efficient though? Not really. They're still very expensive units. But if you're ever in a desperate spot, you happen to have a few Overseers, because obviously you need Overseers in your army, then you can absolutely... can you just set up a really fancy spread for me? Actually, I'll give you tons of Marines as well. And I want to give you stim and combat shields. And there you go. Just set up a real fancy big spread. We'll save that up. So you can run Overseers in and drag. They will kind of drag shots into their army, but once again, it's not reliable necessarily. Like to get that Overseer in on top of their shit. It's something where you're like, oh cool, this unit which was more of a support unit ended up actually dragging a Widowmine shot or two. That's useful. Corruptors can do the same thing, but it's not something you guys should be aiming at as like a core of your play. Like this is once again the fancy icing on top of the cake. Like what Bully was saying, and the reason I wanted to talk about that is he said, well, what about sending some units in to accept some Widowmine shots? There is only one time you do that. 90% of the time when I see people do that, they do it and it looks fancy and stupid. They're trying to run like 4 Zerglings in to take a Widowmine shot. Now, when it is acceptable, and let's save this game as well, and then we'll finish this real quick because it's lagging like crazy. So you do never want to do this like a bunch of Zerglings. What you want to do is you want to do Banelings. And as you get to about 180 supply, your opponent gets 2-2 and a ton of mines and bio like this, what we're looking at. You get to the point where you can't take a good trade against this. There's just like, there's 12 plus mines. There's Marauders with concussive up front. They got good upgrades. There's just too much ranged firepower. And you're not going to have such an open area. You're going to have more choke points, more areas, and bits of terrain your units get kind of clumped up around, and the Widow Mines get crazy shots. So how the fuck do you deal with that as a Zerg player? Well, we just got to watch Home Story Cup, guys, didn't we? And Cyril reminded us all of what we used to do back in the time of this sort of composition. And that is you grab 8 to 12 Banelings. This is about your magic number of Banelings. And when they're parade pushing you, you click it into their army. And you don't even look at it. Hands off the keyboard. And it trades. Is this a positive trade? Nope, that's better for the Terran. I guarantee you. But, you know what happens? Often they're on the edge of creep. So this actually gets to them even faster. And I want you to this time try and stim and micro your bio backwards. So they can get an even more efficient trade. You stim that. Well, it's really laggy. And Demand's micro is lacking. No offense, Demand. I love you.
Well, no, I haven't played StarCraft much in the past 2 months at all because of school.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But basically,
is someone else in here? Is Graben in here? Hyper Silver, are you in the game?
No. It's fine. It's fine. I mean, the point is still very obvious anyway. Basically, the point is just these units. They can take more and more efficient trades, but they're still stimming, and there's a ton of attention that has to. If you don't look at it, you're going to lose a ton of shit every time these Banelings get clicked in. Like, even there with, like, a nice little split, it's like you still lose some units. Now, what does this do? It forces the Terran's attention to the front, and every time you run Banelings in, they move backwards. When they need to be edging forwards, because they need to push your creep back. And if this spreads on creep, by the way, you just murder them. They just die. You can just come in with a pre-spread and kill it. But you basically just keep clicking 8 to 12 Banelings in. And what are you doing at the same time? You're counter-attacking with, like, 80% of your army. And the thing is, Biomine is not like Biotank. Biotank, you couldn't do this because they would just kill those Banelings without you ever contacting them, right? This is why a lot of people have forgotten this because they haven't seen it in pro play for a while. And they're like, oh, you can't just poke in small numbers of units. Like, no, you can. And you can have some Zerglings with this as well. So, I mean, you can do pure Baneling as more of like a desperation thing, or you can, have a small handful of Zerglings as well. And you'll see, like, it kind of might drag some Widowmine shots with the Lings, and then the Banelings get into, like, the Clump of Marines. And this, you just keep doing this, like, every 20 seconds, and it drains the Terran's APM like crazy. Like, they will lose their fucking minds. And behind it, you're securing more and more bases, you're counterattacking with tons of Ling Bane, and what do? You eventually get Ultras or Broodlords, Vipers, Infestors, whatever your late game is, where suddenly just Biomine doesn't look as scary versus lots of Ultras and some Infestors and stuff. So that's something which is really cool there, but don't ever be doing this with just like 5 or 6 Zerglings and trying to do this like fancy micro thing. This is something which, like I said specifically, you can just click these units in, you're like, oh, grab some units, get them there, and you're like macroing, you're like, click them in. I remember back when this was like very popular, people even would have like stages of these units ready so they could box them. They're like, I've got 1 squad waiting, click them in. Go back, macro, do a counter attack, micro. Oh, click them in. And this just kind of slows down their push, drains them, and they are not able to get in there. So this is really cool.